Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the review and recap series for the Living Under Nazi Rule topic. We are moving on to the final part of our Changing Lives theme, which is theme 3 in the unit, by looking at the changing lives of the Jewish population in Nazi Germany between 1933 and 39. We have looked at women, workers and young people, so the Jewish population is the final group of people that we need to analyse in terms of how their lives changed as a result of Nazi policies between 33 and 39. First of all, to start off with then, in Nazi ideology, there were two groups of people. There were Übermenschen, who were considered the superior people, and Untermenschen, who were considered the inferior or subhuman people. And the Nazis believed that Aryans, so people from Northern and Western European descent, were the strongest, Übermenschen, okay? And typically these could be identified by physical characteristics. For example, I'm sure you are all aware of the ideal Nazi Aryan, blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin. That was often portrayed in Nazi propaganda, in posters and films, but there were other forms of the Aryan race. For example, you had sort of Western European, which is what Hitler classified himself as well. Okay, so the ideal Aryan is blonde hair, blue eyes, but it's more to it than just that. So these people are considered the Übermenschen in the eyes of Hitler and the Nazis. On the flip side, then, you had the Untermenschen. These people were considered racially inferior, and they included people like the Roma Sinti Gypsies, black people, Slavic people who are people from Eastern European countries, as well as Jewish people. Now, Judaism, of course, we know is a religion, but the Nazis made it a racial issue. They argued that even if you were a Jewish person and you changed your religion, you still had sort of within you the racial and ethnic parts of Judaism. They argued it was not religious, it was a racial issue. So to try and encourage people to support their ideology and to persecute people they considered Untermensch, the Nazis spread a series of myths about the Jewish population in Germany. For example, they said that Jewish people owned all of the big businesses in Germany at the time and owned all of the money. And they also claimed that they profited from the economic crisis in the 1920s and 30s. The Nazis also claimed that the German defeat in World War I was a result of Jewish interference. And they also claimed that all Jewish people were secretly working with the Communist Party to try and control Germany. Now, we as historians know that that is nothing but lies and myths spread to try and sow anti-Semitic ideas into the population's minds. The reality was very different. Jewish people suffered just like all other groups of people during the crises of the Great Depression and the Wall Street crash. Jewish people had also fought as Jewish Germans in World War I and sacrificed their lives for the German country. So the idea that they were the reason that Germany lost World War I, again, is a myth and a lie. Jewish people also belonged to all political parties. Yes, some Jewish people were communists, but you also had lots of non-Jewish people who were communists as well, okay? So the reason that the Nazis tie the Jewish population and the communists together is because then they can say that they are plotting to take over Germany from a political standpoint. It's a way of tagging them onto a group that the Nazis opposed as well. Furthermore, and I think this is a really important point, Jewish people were less than 1% of the population of Germany at the time. This makes them a very easy target in the eyes of the Nazis because there are very few of them numerically within Germany, so it makes it much easier for the Nazis to persecute them. The Nazis also do not come up with anti-Semitism. They are not the first people in history to be anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism has its roots in European history right back to medieval times. So this is something that has been building throughout Europe for hundreds and hundreds of years. So how exactly did the Nazi policies go about changing the lives of Jewish people in Germany? Well, first off, they tried social exclusion and humiliation. So, for example, for social exclusion, they increased the use of this. So for example, they placed signs around Germany that said Jewish people are not wanted here. Jewish people were often humiliated in the street by the SA or by the police. And publications portrayed Jewish people as money grabbers and communists. For example, we've already talked about this method of Nazi propaganda, Der Stürmer, which was a pro-Nazi newspaper. So first of all, they tried to build up anti-Semitic sentiments by excluding them and humiliating them. There are lots of anti-Semitic laws passed throughout the 1930s, and they can get very easily confused and muddled up. So I thought it would be easiest to show you in a timeline just how anti-Semitism builds up throughout the 1930s. We're going to look at in a future video the Holocaust, which is the systematic murder of at least 6 million Jewish people. And lots of people assume that Hitler sort of wakes up one morning and decides on the Holocaust, but it takes many more steps than that. And these anti-Semitic laws are almost like the stepping stones towards that. So it starts in 1933 when Hitler becomes Chancellor. Jews are excluded from legal professions as part of the Civil Service Act. That is a way of removing their power and influence within society from those influential jobs. In 1935, you get something called the Nuremberg Laws, and I've highlighted these in red because they are extremely important. The Nuremberg Laws forbade marriage and sex between the Jewish people and non-Jewish people in Germany. It also stripped them of their German citizenship, so they were no longer considered German people. And as a result, this means they are no longer protected by Germany's laws. It's a way of othering them and making them look like they are outsiders in their own country. In 1938, Jewish children are banned from non-Jewish schools. So this is now a way of segregating the youth of Germany away from Jewish people. Later on in 1938, Jewish people had to have a J stamped onto their passports as a form of identification. And they also had to add the name Israel or Sarah to their names as a way of identifying them. Again, this is a way of othering them from the non-Jewish population in Germany. In 1938, on the 9th of November 1938, you also get another significant event in the anti-Semitism that's spiraling in Germany at this point. And again, I've highlighted it in red. It's called Kristallnacht, which means the night of broken glass. The Night of Broken Glass was a night when the SA and local Nazi factions destroyed 267 synagogues, attacked 7,500 Jewish businesses, and murdered 91 Jewish people. The SS and the Gestapo also on that night sent 30,000 Jewish people to concentration camps. And this was a very symbolic turning point in the safety of Jewish people in Germany. They were attacked on the streets. The Nazi Party knew about this. They claimed that they had not planned it when we know as historians they had. And then afterwards, to make matters even worse, the Jewish population are blamed for Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, and they are ordered to pay a fine of billions of Reichsmarks in order to repay the damages of this. Like I said, it's a very symbolic turning point in anti-Semitism. It shows that the lives of Jewish Germans are not safe. And in 1939, Jewish immigrants are no longer allowed to take possession. So throughout this time period, the Nazis are encouraging Jewish Germans to leave Germany, to emigrate. And in 1939, they prevent them from taking their possessions with them. That's obviously not all of the anti-Semitic laws. There are more to it than that, and you will find them in the revision guide. But I have tried to highlight some of the most important ones on this timeline as a bit of a starting point. So I do recommend that you go away and do a little bit more research from the revision guide and your lesson notes on anti-Semitic laws. As ever then, I've got a series of questions that you can test yourself on. I'll put them up on the screen now. What I would like you to do is pause the video here for me, please, and have a go at answering these 5 questions. See what you can remember, and then go away and research anything that you are unfamiliar with in these questions. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to put the answers up on the screen now.